Mm. Oh, got to get yourself some good coffee, man. So, anyway, this morning I got a few things I want to kind of talk about. And depopulation, right? Depopulation, it is a thing. Why is depopulation a thing? And not, I try not to come from the conspiracy theory perspective. I kind of try to come from the historical perspective, right? Depopulation has always been a thing because it's always been required. Good morning, Diane. You know, you have to get to a point where you accept history. Like, I actually think that conspiracy theories, they're just business plans, right? Like, if someone's making money from it, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a business plan. Unrealized, perhaps. Good morning, Misty. And there comes time, right, in the kingdom where you've got too many serfs, right? The lords and the kings get to a point where they look around and they're like, you know what? It's too many of these things, right? It's like, it's too many of them. They got pitchforks, they got tar and feather, they got torches. And if they get angry enough with the games we're playing with them, we're going to be in real trouble. So every now and then you got to depopulate. But I think historically, like in the dark ages and medieval times, feudalism times, I think they called them wars, right? You got too many people, what do? They're getting disgruntled. You starve them a little bit, right? Like you make their economy harder for them to survive because starving people will do anything. And so you do things to orchestrate a drop in their economy. They can't produce as much food. You limit the land they can grow on. You tell them they can't hunt on your land, whatever. They get to a point where their kids are starving. And when their kids are starving, like I always say, you can be the most loving pastor from the most loving church with the whitest suit every Sunday. And if your kids are starving, you will be capable of some horrible, horrible things. And so they knew this, and they've always known this. This isn't like a secret or anything. Good morning, Brother Todd. And so they walk this bad economy thing through. The people get desperate enough. They got to feed their children. And they say, oh, look, France is doing this. Let's go kill them. This kingdom is doing this. And so they send all these people into war. Most of them get killed off. And, we won the war. You know, maybe we increased our land a little bit. We decreased our land a little bit. The king of England and the king of France, we lowered the population. Now we're within limits. And so now all the people that died, you kind of take up their land. The lords kind of split it up a little bit. And so I don't think like depopulation and this stuff, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think all this stuff is just historical, right? It's economics, actually. It's economics. It's just how the human race has been doing its thing. So I was talking about minimum wage the other day, and people were getting upset. And, well, we got to get more money. We got to. And I'm just kind of like, man, it's a two-way discussion. It's not just, we need a living wage. We're all agreed there. But why do we need a higher living wage? Because prices are too high. So you can either attack it from one direction or another. One is putting more phony prices in hiking wages, and the other is chopping the prices to live, the living cost, chopping that down. Now the great thing about chopping the prices down is it happens by default. Thank you for sharing, Diane. It happens by default. And that's what's happening right now. Like if you're really paying attention, big business isn't doing so hot. And if big business isn't doing so hot, they're not buying as many politicians. If they're not buying as many politicians, you have like this, but hang on, that's too big. Maybe this much more say in your government. Maybe, possibly. And I think that's something that everybody agrees on, across both sides. We need more say in our government. So, but it's kind of paying attention. So I want to just hit the list of the store closings, like what's really happening. And I want you to try to get in the mindset of a business owner, right? I want you to try to get in the mindset of a small business owner at that. Get out of the corporate mindset. Drop that for a minute. Like if you hear the name of your company, don't be like, my company. Process the fact that this is a big, massive corporation that really probably shouldn't exist, that our lives are tied to in this economy. And so we feel bad when it does bad because we're thinking we got to go get another job, stuff like that. And this is the thing that masters did on the plantations, right? Because when something happened to the master, the slave would say, oh, it's hurting us. Something happened to the land. It's not going to be good for us, because the slave was a part of the master. And this is really what corporate America does to you. It makes you feel like you're a part of it. So I go through the list, and I don't want you to think, oh, not my store, because it ain't your store. Say, oh, our store. There's no our in that big business. There is them and there is you. And you are trained to believe that it's a part of us. And there's no us in this. This is literally us and it's them. But I try not to get into the other type stuff. But so go and hitting the list. So Payless, 4,000 stores are closing. This is the 2017 list. Payless Shoes is closing 1,000 stores. Radio Shack is closing 552. The Limited is closing 250. Family Christian is closing 240. Wet Seals closing 171. Now, mind you, I don't even know what these stores are because I don't go to malls, so I have no idea what half of this is. But Crocs is closing 160. JCPenney, I know them. They're closing 138. Chico's 120. BCBG Max Zera is closing 120. Kmart's closing 108. I thought they were already out, but they're still going out. American Apparel closing 104. Office Depot 100. CVS 70. Them some drug dealers, man. They need to close. I'm sorry if you work for them, but remember, it's not us, it's them. Macy's is closing 63. Guess is closing 60. I'm not going to go down the list, right? But the whole point is there's 4,000 stores that are being closed this year. And as bad as all that seems, oh, our economy's not doing good. We gotta spend like George Bush after 9/11. Go out and spend some money. People just died, but go spend some money. It's because they're collapsing, right? The cost of living is going to be coming down. But not only that, so when JCPenney's closes, if you make some clothes, you know how to make clothes, don't you think it might be a good idea to go ahead and get out that sewing machine and kind of make a shirt or two and put it on the internet, maybe open a little shop, throw something in there and sell it? Because every big business that's closing up, the smart people are going to be starting small business. And that's not the right word. I'm just going to say the people who understand we don't yet have a society or a government that can deal with massive corporations because they keep getting bought up. If you get that, now is a time to start taking your craft and putting it out there, because these stores are closing up. When these 4,000 stores close up, it's going to create a vacuum, right? And like all of our wars and the dumb stuff we do, it's going to create a power vacuum. People have this money, they need to spend it, and they're going to spend it. If you don't think Americans are going to spend their money, you need to pay attention. They're either going to spend it at your store, they're going to spend it at your neighbor's store, or you're going to work for the smaller mom and pop stores that start opening up as they make the money and you work for them. So it's really your choice. But this whole day of being lazy, sitting on your butt, eating your GMO and processed foods, that day is coming to an end. So these are good signs, right? Like these are signs of an empire in collapse. These are great things. Doesn't mean you can keep up your butt spread, but it means that good things are happening, that the prices will be coming down. Talking about Walmart. I didn't see Walmart on the list. But they do have better prices. And that actually it's a good point too. Like the dollar store in them places. If you're going to go and buy the junk the world has to offer that they forced slaves in Mexico and China and other places to make, go buy the cheap stuff. Like, don't give them as much as your money as you can. Don't buy the expensive stuff. Go buy the cheap stuff. Make them work for it. They want to put your kids in slavery. Make them work for it a little bit. But my personal perspective is don't buy any junk. And what is junk? If it's not made in America, it's junk. Don't buy anything that's not made in America. That's gonna get me in trouble, but this is what I believe. We've spent decades sending our wealth overseas, and that's why we are where we are. Why are we at war? Because our government's broke. Countries are moving away from the petrodollar, so they're doing everything they can to keep influxing money into the country, and that's done with the petrodollar. So if you go out there and you buy your alligator shoes and you're feeling good, and then you go to the anti-war protests, like, this is why people like me look at you like, I ain't going to that protest. Listen, if I'm gonna go get in a foxhole with somebody, it's not gonna be somebody that's like taking ammunition out of my back pocket or pointing the gun at me. I'm not getting in your foxhole. Like, no, you don't seem to get it. And it's like Brother Bill talks about, with this, they're trying to drum up a race war. Oh, come on, knock on my door for the race war. Yeah, just try. Go on, try. Knock on the first of all, ain't nobody gonna answer the door. And if somebody do, they not gonna be coming out and do nothing with you. Like, you're dumb and you're stupid if you walk into an area and you got 8 different sides on a war, because this is what America does, and you start shooting people. You don't know who you're shooting, why you're shooting them, but like, so, and all of that nonsense, man, just, I'm gonna put that there. It's because I'm smiling, but it's not funny. It's stupid and it's ignorant, because you have children out there on the street rambling with the police over all of these cases because they got ignorant parents at home yelling and screaming about the race of the cop or the race of the person that shot him and their race. And don't pass your kids anger. If you're going to pass down a legacy to your children, don't pass down hate, because you can sit here and you can talk about the other side passing down hate, but if you're passing down hate and anger too, those are your babies in the street, right? And the shame is, my heart goes out for them, because the police know how to deal with it, and they're dealing with it. And if you don't think the current administration is going to deal with it, well, you got something coming, because the previous administration built all the prisons to hold all of them. You don't think they're all in sync? Keep reading. So anyway, prices are coming down. And what else is going on? So I think the last stat I saw, 40,000 are dead in Mosul. So America, morning, Brother Brian. America, 40,000 dead in Mosul. Innocent civilians. They suspect it's because human bodies don't do so well when buildings are collapsing on them from bombs dropped from the American tax dollar, from bombs made in America. So there is that. You can imagine they have families all over the world. You can imagine they have families in other parts of the Middle East who your kids will have to deal with. And I guess when I say your kids, I mean my kids, but I'm kind of hoping we can get past all of this. Last thing, the other thing I saw, so 300,000 kids now suspected have cholera in Yemen. Of course, because of weaponized Saudi Arabia, because we're giving them all the weapons. The last administration did it, the administration before that did it, and this administration's doing it. So America, we got 300,000 kids with cholera in Yemen because they're bombing hospitals, and I think they're targeting hospitals now. So there is that. Another 700 billion, which is 100 billion more for the NDA than the last administration. That couldn't be because they're planning a war, is it? That couldn't be because we're going into another country. Things that kind of make you think. So, and this is why I always put the message out there. Get you some seeds. Put those seeds in the ground. Read up on health. Because I sometimes laugh to myself, because I look at videos and people are talking about revolt, and like half the time, sometimes they can't even get it out their mouth. Like, we're going smoking a cigarette. It's going to be a revolt. I'm just sitting here thinking, man, you can't even breathe. Like, you can't even get oxygen in your lungs, and you want me to like get with you and go do something against the most violent government in the world? Man, you are out of your mind. First of all, stupid people, listen to what I'm saying. If you're a dependent, you absolutely, positively cannot tell your government anything. You can't even tell your government the color of Jell-O that they sell you. You can't tell them anything. You have to be healthy. You have to be strong. You have to be as independent as possible. Because if you're a dependent, you're not even invited to the table. You don't get to talk about nothing because you're dependent completely 100% on their infrastructure, the bills they roll out, their legislation. So you want to talk about where's the revolution? The revolution starts in your mind. And the great thing is if you're done the right way, you look at Martin Luther King and the rest of them, no shots have to be fired. You don't have to have a violent revolts are for fools. That's what in America, a violent revolt, that would be for the most ignorant person you know, because there is no taking on these people. But I'm not going to belabor that point. I've been there before. And if your neighbors don't get it, plant some seeds for your neighbors. Grow some tomatoes and peppers for your neighbors. Why? Because that's how community works. Grow a little extra, share a little bit, and building up a community, that's really where change comes from. Change doesn't come from beating a desk and telling your legislator and voting for a Democrat or Republican to not do anything that you want them to do. No change is coming from that. And I'm going to go down into the last little piece of something I wanted to talk about. So because of the unfortunate racial times that we live in, good morning, Catherine. I have to always look at the racial thing that's going on because y'all don't seem to get it. Like I posted something this morning about Dr. Sebi. And the reason why most people haven't heard of Dr. Sebi is because, well, first of all, what did he do? He took out an ad in a New York newspaper and pushed it out and said, I can cure AIDS, I can cure leukemia, I can cure, he listed all of these sickle cell anemia and cardiovascular, like he listed all these things in an ad and put it out in, I think it was in like the New York Times or something, big paper in New York. And of course they grabbed him, arrested him, and they said, oh no, you can't say that, that's practicing medicine without a license, we're going to put you in prison. And so when his trial came, the judge said to him, he said, well, okay, so if you can cure all these things, then you need to give us evidence. He said, I want to see one patient and their medical records of one patient of each thing you cured. And so he put out notice, I don't know all the details, but he somehow put out notice to his patients, and 70 showed up. They showed up with their medical papers. They showed, I previously got HIV, and previously here is my count. I don't have it. I had whatever cancer prior, and now I don't have it. And why most people haven't heard of Dr. Sebi, and if you want to Google him, take a look at him, S-E-B-I, well, I'm sure they killed him. They did kill him. But the reason you haven't heard of him is because just prior to it was either just prior or just after the end of the trial, where he proved in the Supreme Court of New York that he could cure these things, Tawana Brawley. So of course, you know what happened. Everybody ran to Tawana Brawley. Everyone, oh my God, get in the street, yell, scream, I can't believe this is happening, bah! So the people who were actually following the case, who were most likely to promote to the country and the world, hey, that this guy in this genetic type of nutrition and staying away from starches, this guy can cure all these diseases. You don't need all these pharmaceutical drugs and these idiots making synthetics. But you haven't heard about it because they started up the racial tension. And of course, that that slave mind mentality kicked in. Because it's on both sides, right? Master came up with this idea of race. He embedded it in everyone. And now everyone's all hyped up on it. Like, we think this thing exists. And so now when we hear this, we got to react to it. So it doesn't matter that I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a rocket scientist, or I'm a philosopher, and I can think really well, and I'm a critical thinker. I'm going to stop critical thinking right now. I'm going to get upset and mad, and I'm going to go out, yell, scream. And the whole Dr. Sebi thing just washed away. Washed away. And I'm going to drop it on that and try to keep these videos short. But the point is that the greatest tool the empire ever invented was the idea and this concept that race actually exists. And anytime that y'all start to get together, historically, if you look back, they deploy it to get you fighting over something that doesn't even exist, something that they don't have to invest in anymore because you bought into this idea. And all these emotions get welled up and your critical thought turns off and you don't stop to think. that every last one of us is interracial and all of our genes are mixed. So that's my message for the day. Yes, we are one human race, and the sooner we get past the slave mind, and I guess you could actually call it the railroad mind. You could probably call it the serf mind, because these are the masters. It wasn't just the masters on the plantations, but these are the masters who go back to medieval times. Until you get past the concepts that they've given you to divide up yourselves and get emotional and fight and turn off your critical thought, we're never gonna get anywhere. No change will ever happen. And you also got to put down that cigarette and stop eating that GMO and go ahead and put yourself a garden in. That's my word for today is don't play into the BS. Let the race mess go. Y'all have a good day. If I can find the button.